welcome to the Catalyst Effect. I'm your host, Isaac Carter, and we are live at Austin Tech Week, hosted by Capital Factory. And I have had the opportunity all week to talk to some amazing founders and, getting the voice of the founder to find out who they're serving, what problems they're solving, how they're doing it, and their why. This is what we do here at the Catalyst Effect, and this week has been really, really awesome. Some of the challenges that these founders have overcome to bring a truly meaningful solution to a market that needs to have their problems solved. It's been inspiring to me, and I am here with my guest Jim. Jim, tell us a little bit about yourself and your startup, your enterprise.
Hi guys, my name's Jim Carucci, founder and CEO of Cascader. We're building reliable AI agents that don't just hand your intellectual property over to Sam Altman on a silver platter.
Nice. Okay, so you've got a few words that have some impact in there. First is reliable, meaning that if somebody goes in and decides, hey, 040 is gone and 5 something else or 9 or whatever is in, the agent doesn't change its behavior suddenly without notice to you, right?
No, it's even more profound than that. I would say it's at the architectural level. So I created a new architecture using I think the industry is way too over-indexed on LLMs in general. So LLMs are a great tool. They're unlocking
this towards the small language.
Yeah, so they're I would go beyond like small language. I would say it's completely new architecture. There's new models that are much better at reasoning. They're not necessarily linguistic based. Language is one of these magical things that humans are just kind of endowed with by evolution, but it's something we kind of like have taken for granted. But LLMs unlock that, so that's a great tool. But something like 95% of enterprise AI deployments fail to generate any ROI for investors. That's tens of billions of dollars and not much to show for it. And then you also have the fact that something like 75 to 96% of the time, agents fail at basic office tasks. And I'd submit to you that despite all of the hundreds of billions of dollars of investment, we're still not able to tackle those types of challenges. That means we're probably on the wrong path. If you're having to completely re-engineer the grid to solve this problem, I think you're on the wrong path, and I think there's a lot of groupthink going on where everyone's over-indexed on LLMs. So I created my own architecture using novel techniques that are coming out of the lab, and I was able to drastically improve speed, cost, reliability, and also just ability to self-custody, keep custody of your own data.
So rather than using the Library of Congress times 1,000 to perform specific tasks, you're building agents that are from the ground up designed to perform that task.
Exactly. I instead of using a 747 across the street, I think you should just walk.
I used to use the example of using a Mazda Miata to haul gravel, or a dump truck to run NASCAR.
Right.
So my background, I was a data scientist for 25 years, so I've been doing machine learning, predictive analytics for my entire career. And that's been one of my major complaints, is you're using language to attempt to implement algorithms to do analytics, which are all things that are disassociated from language. So, and LLMs have come to a point where they can do arithmetic and basic tasks, but it's very bloated, it's very slow, there's not always a lot of accuracy, and at some point somebody can change something and the way that agent functions is gone. And then also, if you're using an agent to perform a specific task and it's trained in a specific way on a large data set, and then the next agent that's doing a different task is trained on the same data set, and the only thing that's changing is the prompt that you're doing through the prompt engineering, there's no reliability to that. But then the next thing you say is reliable agents that protect your IP. So there's a whole can of worms in there. Is one, you're talking about the reliability, but then you're also talking about the fact that once you inject something into the groupthink cloud, it's not yours anymore. Even if, we've seen this with social media for decades. A agree to an agreement, to a licensing agreement, they can publish and update that license agreement at any point in time, and then you have an option of shutting down the way your business operates because you have to turn your agents off, or losing your intellectual property. You got really bad options. Which one do you pick from? It sounds like you are really addressing both of those things.
Yeah, what it comes down to is, there's a lot of centralizing forces on these LLMs. They require all these resources. They require you to re-engineer the grid, and there's a lot of, I would say, pulling forth the value from the future. There's a lot of like overvaluation, so they can take on these massive things. And I would submit to you that, even if that did work, let's put aside the risk of it not working. Let's assume it does work. Is that really what we want? You want 3 companies in the world deciding, how your business model is run? Do you want them to be like Amazon, coming out with Amazon Basics, but for your entire business? That's really dangerous, I think, for many societal reasons on top of the economic reasons that it probably won't work.
Yeah, I think that for me, using OpenAI and Grok and Gemini and whatever is out there to prove a concept and do it quickly at a relatively low cost, I mean, it's $40 a month for a pro on OpenAI. I think that makes a lot of sense, but at the end, you have to own your own future, your own ability to operate. And you do. Intellectual property is huge. I mean, if you're looking at private equity and you're looking at investment, the first thing they always ask is, how are you protecting? What IP do you have? How are you protecting that IP? And if the IP is custom GPTs trained in OpenAI, the answer is you don't have IP. And so how are you going to protect that? Every founder, they're very creative. They have ways that they put words together to make it sound like they have a plan. But the fact is, if your IP is a custom GPT and somebody else's cloud, somebody else's AI, the answer is you don't have IP and you have no way to protect it.
Yeah, and I think you touched on something. To their credit, I haven't seen too many cases of them taking advantage of this asymmetry where they kind of know more about your business than you do. But today, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
They could at any point do a Star Wars, Order 66 and just take over all these businesses. And look at what Amazon
said exactly
does.
the same thing about Facebook in 2009.
Right. Think about what Amazon does. They get all the insight and all the data and consumer behavior, and you made your little widget, and it's a first of its kind. It's great. You have a competitive advantage because nobody else, knows about it. And then Amazon just comes out with a knockoff version. They go to their Chinese contractors, and then they undercut you and remove you from the algorithm like that. Now imagine that, but with your consulting business, or your more what I want to say, knowledge worker type business. Like, that's the risk here.
Yeah.
And I think people need to take that seriously and take self-custody of
Literally, Amazon is using your vacuum cleaner to understand everything that's in your house. I mean, they have data. You're not going to compete with them once they get your IP, once they understand how you operate. So that, I think that's awesome. What stage are you in development?
So I have a prototype. This is a bit of a pivot. So when I originally started, this was 2023. We were all wide-eyed, much more innocent back then.
Yep.
And I basically created a prototype. I created a primitive version of A2P, Google's payment protocol. So I front ran that. Also front ran model context protocol. I'm a Bitcoiner, so I was at a Bitcoin hackathon 2023, and I said, wouldn't it be cool if we could broadcast all of the capabilities of like an API or an agent, settle it in Bitcoin instantly, because there's a thing called the Lightning Network that lets you settle it instantly. And there's also a thing that's sort of like RSS, but for social media or APIs, called Nostr. So we're doing it that way. Granted, that's not really the mainstream way to do it. Didn't really have the pull to pull people into the network effects. But what I was trying to build towards is this idea of like a machine payable web, where it's like, okay, Isaac has his agent. It's really good at things that Isaac trained it for. She has hers, he has his, I have mine. And they can interoperate and actually like subcontract each other. That was kind of what I was trying to build towards.
Okay.
And I realized it wasn't possible because they're just simply not reliable. They're not good at chaining together tools. Despite all of the massive spend, all the efforts, they're just not reliable, and they're not fast enough, they're not cheap enough for them to make sense for a lot of use cases. So I want to solve all those problems, and I think I found the solution.
I love it. Yeah, it's really exciting to me. I want people to take their idea, build a prototype, and get it in front of their customer immediately, as fast as possible. Like the 3-4 weeks, get something out there. And nowadays with Cursor and generative AI, I can get something in front of them. I had an idea one time on Friday, and by Monday I was shopping a prototype showing exactly how it's going to work. For me, the most powerful part of that is you learn what the actual need in the market is without investing in something that isn't. Because the Catalyst method, what we use is we say, start with your audience. Who are you solving problems for? Know them deeply. Understand their goals and aspirations. I ripped this off directly from Building a Story Brand from Donald Miller, and
I love that book, by the way.
Me too. I love it.
So my cousin is like a high-powered salesman. He advises AWS, Databricks, Nielsen, I think now Stripe even, and he uses that, but for sales. And I was like, oh, this is like the hero's journey. He's like, shut up, nerd. Just do what I tell you. But it's like the same idea.
Yeah. Understand my customer, understand them deeply, and then lay out their problem.
Right.
And for me, it's a 5-step process. So you have the audience, and there's the problem, pain, cause, consequence, and urgency.
Right.
Because what technical founders do is they build an idea and they solve a problem, but it's not the problem that their audience recognizes as a problem.
Right.
It's a problem that an engineer wants to solve.
Right.
And so you end up with a solution that's pretty cool, but your audience doesn't understand it because they never knew that it was a problem to begin with. So rather than spending all your time and energy and resources building something for somebody that doesn't know that they want it, understand what the real problem is. And a lot of times, I've used this for years. What I do is, if people don't know what they want, I throw in a bad idea. Because a lot of times people realize what they don't want when they see it, but they don't know what they need until they see something they don't need. And then they start saying, well, no, this other thing would be better. I'm like, hey, tell me about that other thing. And that's what happened with you, is you designed something, you went out and realized, kind of like Mr. Stark, the technology of your time doesn't support that yet. So you're building that first thing, and then you'll get onto the monetization of connection of agents later.
Exactly. Yeah, I just realized there's a foundation that's missing, and that was a great exercise. I'm like grateful for. I'm the type of person I don't. There's only happy accidents. There's no like regrets, and I just realized first thing's reliability on a technical level. There's like 3 things you need: reliability for that future to take place, and I'd argue that that's like the future you really want. You don't really want OpenAI to have, or those other. Those other big some people want exactly that. I'd argue 99.9% of the population does not want that, and I think that's a superior future. So how do I get there? First, I have to solve the reliability problem. Then you have to kind of convince businesses to build these agents in such a way that they could, if they wanted to, open them up and be open to like incentives like subcontracting their agent for other people to use autonomously.
So what does your team look like? Is it just Jim, or?
It's just Jim and some contractors.
Okay.
Yeah.
Great.
So I'm a technical CEO. I do write the code.
Okay. That gets you so far, and
Right.
it gets you to prove your concept, and it gets you out there fast. And that's just exactly what you want. Awesome. Thanks so much for being on, Jim.
All right. Thanks, Isaac.
All right, hold on just a second. All right, so this is our first episode of Catalyst Effect for Wednesday morning. We are live here at Austin Tech Week, and Capital Factory has just an amazing schedule of events today. They've been an amazing host. Come on down here if you can. We are on the 5th floor outside of the Connector Plus Lounge, and we want to elevate your story as a founder. Welcome to the Catalyst Effect. I'm your host, Isaac Carter, and we are here live at Austin Tech Week, hosted by Capital Factory, having the opportunity to talk to founders and get their background of who they're solving for, what problems they're solving, how they're doing it, and their backstory of their why. And I am here with Car Gonzales, and you are the founder of Pleb Lab, and you are a crypto accelerator?
Bitcoin accelerator.
Bitcoin, okay.
Big distinction.
Tell me about that.
So crypto tends to raise tokens and do all sorts of weird things.
Yeah.
Bitcoin is entirely decentralized, and you have to mine for it. It requires energy, very similar to like AI and stuff like that. So it's a lot harder to come by. And so what we have is an accelerator. We actually started in Capital Factory in 21. We were a small group of misfits who were given some office space to incubate some Bitcoin projects. It was a super top secret project here on the 5th floor on the other side. And we, Joshua Bear was super kind to us. And this was at the time when COVID had just been opened up for everything, and we were drawing big crowds in at the time because Bitcoin was a big thing, and we were lucky enough to have a group of founders that were all building on the Lightning Network. This was a thing that was taking off in 21 at the time. It was a humongous thing, and around that time I didn't even know what an accelerator was. I was building my own media company at the time. And we kind of stumbled into it. It was just the right place at the right time. And since then, we've got humbled, and we've learned how to actually help founders now. And so I would say over the course of 4 to 5 years, we're actually doing things properly now. And we're over here off of 6th and Congress at the Littlefield building. And we're helping people like Jim that you just spoke to. He's building a really cool company called Accelerator.
Yeah.
And so we're doing really cool things now.
It's funny. Have you ever studied the Dunning-Kruger effect?
I think I know what that is. Remind me again.
So the Dunning-Kruger effect is where the less you know about something, the more you think you know about it. And so the less capable and experienced you are, the more confident you are. And then as your experience increases, you learn, I didn't know nothing. And then you think that you are completely unexperienced when you actually reach the peak of your experience. And then when you start coming down, you start realizing other people are ignorant about this too. I'm going to help them.
That's exactly what it's like building an accelerator.
Yeah.
I didn't even know Y Combinator existed.
Yeah.
Until my co-founder told me about it in 21. And I didn't even really start reading any Paul Graham stuff until like 2 years ago.
Yeah.
Because and it was just out of just sheer like you didn't know what we didn't know.
Yeah.
And we knew that we were building for this kind of Bitcoin era. That's how we were kind of thinking through things. And so the type of people that we were bringing in were a lot of people that were self-sovereign. They had a different sort of ethos to them. They were looking at the world a little bit differently. They were thinking in kind of like Bitcoin terms as far as like time, money, and sovereignty. And so these are the people that we were attracting into Pleb Lab. And so it was a lot different than the normal tech founder that you would see just in Austin.
I think if I work 100 hours a week and I put my time and I convert my blood, sweat, and tears into something, then I can convert that into value. And what you're talking is more people coming in saying, I have ideas, I have strategy, I understand how the world works, and I can convert that into value.
Exactly. And you're trying to build something that's sustainable over the course of time, and you're trying to build a sustainable business that actually generates real world value and actually hard money. So like with Bitcoin, you're seeing a lot of companies right now, opt into this kind of treasury strategy where people are buying Bitcoin, putting it on their balance sheet, and then just kind of sitting on it. Well, I mean, that doesn't, we'll see how that kind of plays out, but normal Bitcoin startups, what they tend to do is try to create as much value as they can. And we think, or at least we propose, that in the future, we think that Bitcoin will eventually be this kind of world money, and people will then come to you for your services and choose to pay, or you would much rather have Bitcoin instead of dollars, because dollars are inflating at like 10% a year, and it's just a melting ice cube at this point.
So you're not talking about helping companies create Bitcoin. You're talking about helping companies that do consulting or software development or auto sales or whatever it is that they do exchange value through Bitcoin.
No, so
accepting it as their
I'm
payment.
talking about individuals that are building companies in the real world that generate enough value that then lead to this kind of sat flow, as we call it, this money that occurs on the Lightning Network, that occurs on the Bitcoin, on the on-chain network. So it's a lot hard to understand.
So instead of me working and then invoicing you in dollars, I'm working.
You would have the option. You would have the
in-
option to pay in Bitcoin. So there's a company that came out of Pleb Lab called Zaprite, right? They started off initially doing invoicing software. It looked very similar to QuickBooks. The interesting thing with them is at the time there was no one that had built invoicing software for Bitcoin. They gave you the option to pay in dollars, Bitcoin, or these other options like Square.
Dogecoin. I own a bunch of Dogecoin.
No, not Dogecoin, because no one would pay in that, right? So, other than Elon Musk. So, what you would see is you would see people would opt to pay in Bitcoin. And so when you hold on to that Bitcoin, when Bitcoin's at $16,000 on your balance sheet, as a company, you run a company, well, what happens over the course of 4 years when Bitcoin goes to 125K? That $16 invoice or the $100 invoice that got paid is now worth, whatever amount. So what you're seeing is that people are opting to accept Bitcoin as payment. And you'll start seeing that more and more.
So I know a company called Active Network, and they have some really good software for administrating like marathons and sporting events. They do all of like Disney World's marathons, and they don't charge Disney for it. What they do is everybody pays Active Network to participate in the marathon, and they hold that money for 3 months. They throw that money, $10 million, into a CD that gets like 4.5% a year, but they hold it for 3 months, and then that's enough money for them to be worth it. So Disney gets it for free. They make their money off of just holding the dollars for 3 months. What you're saying is sort of similar to that, only there could be a larger upsell than the 3%, and you're hoping that the companies are able to handle not as cash flow, but hold it for longer.
Yeah, because you're seeing it already in the real world right now. I mean, you do this, I do this, probably everybody in this room does this, but we're all, either removing subscriptions or removing services from either our businesses or our personal accounts constantly. We're looking at our monthly statements and saying, hey, this doesn't make sense anymore, right? We're all doing that, right?
I can sit down with Lovable and Cursor and write a CRM that does what
or we're looking at the services that matter, that really make the most sense for us in our business or in our home life, right? And so we think that this is going to lead to a world where people's exchange for value is going to be a lot harder to come by. And we think that, when that exchange happens, more and more companies are going to have this extra payment layer to it, and it's going to be Bitcoin. And so we're building companies like that, like Cascader. Cascader has a Bitcoin option. We're not telling you that you can't build on whatever you want. We're saying that, hey, if you're building something, you probably should have a Bitcoin option in there to cover your back end, right? Like just so you have an upside in the future, because that $100,000 invoice that you got last month or last quarter, potentially could be 500,000. If it was paid in Bitcoin here in a couple years, right? So.
Yeah, got it. I like it. And everybody, credit unions are trying to figure out how to exchange value through Bitcoin.
Yeah, you're seeing like BlackRock, the biggest conglomerate.
Well, even the smallest.
Yeah, and you're seeing even the president, you're seeing them front run Bitcoin. You're seeing a ton of, normal just corporate CEOs now opting for Bitcoin on their balance sheets. You're seeing a ton of just normal startups now, tech startups now having Bitcoin on their balance sheet. They're believe it or not, Austin is like the Bitcoin capital of the world. I don't know if most people know this. I know Joshua knows this. He mines Bitcoin, but Austin is the Bitcoin capital of the world. This is the place, the epicenter of Bitcoin companies. There used to be one Bitcoin accelerator in Austin. Now there's two. Now there's one actually in Wimberley, and so we're starting to see this kind of Bitcoin take off here in Texas. And Texas has multiple Bitcoin mining sites, and they're pro Bitcoin here in Texas. And so I think Texas is ripe for Bitcoin and Bitcoin companies, and I think it's just going to lead to further adoption and further acceleration. And I think Capital Factory is a big part of that, right? Like they're the epicenter of entrepreneurship, and I think we're just going to see more and more companies here at Capital Factory and here all over Central Texas just opt into a Bitcoin payment system or treasury system of a sort on their balance sheet. So you're just going to see that more and more and more.
So tell me, you came in here through an accelerator program. You started with big ideas and what you thought was a clear understanding. You evolved. Now you're 5-6 years in now.
We're going on 5 years. We just actually did our 6th startup day in the Yucatan 2 weeks ago.
Wow.
Just went on Bitcoin News right now. They just printed it, but it kind of has a recap and so we're slowly growing. We're still kind of a young, scrappy group of founders ourselves. Like we were a group of founders that founded Pleb Lab. Like, so we're just helping other founders find their way.
Unfortunately, most founders never get to that point where they're 5 years in and much more stable. And if you don't collect an invoice for a couple of months, you're not going to die. That transition, because what ends up happening is you start off with big ideas and you go hungry for a couple of years, and then you start making some revenue, and then you start, like, the scrappiness has to fade away as you implement operation. What's the biggest takeaway from that, switching from the pure startup into more of a scale-up mode? What's the biggest takeaway for founders?
I think we work primarily with early stage startups. I think the biggest thing is making sure that you have a product that people actually want to purchase. I think making sure that you understand the pricing model that works for the particular business, the particular product that you're selling, and not trying to fit the pricing model that you think would work. And I think Paul Graham talks about this a lot, and even Sam Altman talked about it a lot in his startup playbook. But it's like talking to the customers, re-talking to them. You know this. Like, it's just like
build a relationship,
and then just keep building. Like, find the first 5, find the first 10, find the first 50, and then just keep building that relationship until you close that loop as much as you possibly can.
So many founders start with an idea, then they build a product,
and then they don't talk to their customers.
And then they're like, "Oh, we're still trying to figure out product market fit." Why didn't you start with the market?
Yeah.
And then, because once you get idea to product, getting a product back to solution, now you're a solution looking for a problem.
Yeah.
And I've never seen it work where you have, we're trying to back into a market fit.
Yeah.
The only thing I've ever seen work is understand an audience, know them well. Exactly. And then I always say a problem statement is problem, pain, cause, consequence, and urgency. Mm-hmm. If you know that it's high pain with high consequences with high urgency, it doesn't matter the size of the audience, because now you can go and you can exchange your solution to a real problem. 80% of the reason startups fail is because they can't get a solution that matters in front of an audience that cares. I coined that, by the way. You can read it. And so, if you start with the audience, and then you know how to reach them already, and all these agile cultists, as I call them, they say, well, you could never know what the market needs. Maybe a software engineer can, but guess what? Marketing people have existed for a long time. They go out and they talk to the market. They learn them. They understand their problems and their pain. And then they try to take a product and match it to that pain. Ooh, if you start with the audience and you understand their challenges and their ambitions, then you can create a solution. And the problem, market fit, and all that stuff just goes away.
Yeah.
It's designed out of the company.
I think we're lucky enough to be in Austin. I think one of the smartest things that Pleb Lab did was build in Austin and start here at Capital Factory, and see kind of being downtown is infectious here in Austin and in this kind of entrepreneur center that we're in, right? It's like a gravity suction cup, right?
Yeah.
It's awesome, but I think us being a Pleb Lab and a Bitcoin accelerator, our success hit rate is very high. So what we always tell founders is, like, if you're going to build, don't build alone.
Yeah.
Like, build around other builders. And if you want a high success rate, come to Pleb Lab. If you can't come to Pleb Lab, then find a group of people and build with them. But we batted pretty high as far as people that have come through Pleb Lab and been successful.
Yeah, having that community of people.
Yeah, because we like our network is so big now. We have a network of entire founders, of investors, and we're slowly growing our own little kind of like angel network to come in and invest in these companies right out the get. So we're still growing ourselves. There's a lot of stuff that we don't know, like you said earlier, that we're going to find out and realize, oh, we have to cross that bridge. I thought we could just build a tunnel around it, right? Or
You know, it's funny. I say this a lot.
Yeah.
You know what a brain surgeon calls brain surgery?
No.
Routine.
Okay.
So for me, doing brain surgery would be scary for everybody involved. But I mean, if I'm doing data analytics or building ML models or something like that, that's routine. I'm trained. I know how to do this. It's no problem. So never build alone, because there are people around you.
Totally.
Professionals exist for a reason. Experts are there for a reason. So having that ecosystem, the most dangerous thing a founder can do is build it alone.
Yeah, you need that expertise.
Yeah.
And I think Capital Factory is great for like tech entrepreneurs, but like Bitcoin is like you're dealing with money, and so you need to be around people that understand that level of expertise. Yeah.
Car, thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you so much, Isaac. It was nice talking to you.
This is what I love about being in these in startup weeks and talking to founders, is you find people that are passionate. And one thing I love about founders is a lot of times they try so hard to make sure that everybody is successful. That in the startup community, at any point in time, I can call another founder and ask them, hey, what is your experience with this or your experience with that? So Car and Pleb Labs, if you're interested in doing anything with Bitcoin and you want to make sure that your enterprise, that your startup is built on the right foundation that's future-proof from the beginning, reach out to Car at Pleb Labs. So this is day 2 at Austin Tech Week, day 3 at Austin Tech Week, but day 2 for the Catalyst Effect here. And we are on the 5th floor right outside of the Connector Plus Lounge. Come on out and see us, and we're going to tell your story.
Thanks, Isaac.